So the thing that I like about this spot for the grave is that you have to imagine it with a big burial mound and this huge boulder. And this huge boulder, you could actually see it from the town that is behind here. You could see it from the hill fort that is over there. You could see it from the lake also, and probably from the neighbor island over there. That was Hofgården. And when I do my guided tours here on Birka, I really like to call that place like the Eiffel Tower of Birka, because it was meant to be seen from everywhere.
Hello folks, I am here at Birka Vikingestaden. This is one of the oldest, most significant archaeological sites from the Viking Age in Scandinavia. And I'm joined today by Amanda Berger, who is a master's student at the Sorbonne.
Yes.
And you have done a lot of work on the famous warrior woman grave here on Birka, which is right behind us, a meter or two. So can you tell us, who is the remarkable woman who was buried here?
And that's the question that I like, because we don't know who she was.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's the best question. We know that she was a woman, that's for sure. And we know that she has been buried with a lot of weapons, that's for sure. But who she was, we cannot say.
Mm-hmm. A huge amount of weapons.
Yeah, a huge amount of weapons. I think it's the grave that has most of the weapon in Birka. There were like 2 spearheads, probably a bow. There was 25 arrows, an axe, 2 shields, knives, swords, 2 horses also. Can count.
Yeah. And so much, I understand, Veronica was telling me in the museum couldn't even make replicas of everything.
Yeah,
She
no,
was buried with
there was too much.
So much. And then there's the game board.
Yeah,
and game pieces.
and the pieces, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The remarkably elaborate clothing.
Yes, and that's interesting because she was dressed in an Eastern fashion, probably coming from the Rus region, so not from here. We know also that she wasn't born on Birka. She was probably from the south of Scandinavia, and then she traveled far in the eastern countries, so she has traveled a lot, for sure.
Very interesting. Is that from isotopic analysis? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so she's probably from like Skåne or Denmark or something?
Possibly.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. And there was the designs on her there was the cap.
Yes, the cap with the silver tassels that were found around her neck. So we don't know for sure what was the shape of the hat. It's a replica. But we know that the tassels were found around the neck. Mm-hmm. And they are very beautiful.
Yeah, remarkably fine work.
Yeah.
Right. And her skeleton, as I understand it, showed evidence of a hard life.
On her bones.
Mm-hmm.
We have found on her bones, Charlotte said that, on her backbone, there are traces of someone who used to ride horses a lot. Mm-hmm. But we don't have any more marks on her bones, on her body.
I had understood that perhaps there was some evidence that she had been an archer,
yes, it's possible. I mean, on Birka, we know that archery was an important part of the warfare here. She was buried with a bow, with arrows, horses, and we know also that in the eastern countries, they used to ride horses while doing archery. So when you put all the pieces together, we can say, it's an hypothesis, we can say that she was an archer riding a horse.
Mm-hmm. But of course, with all of these things, unfortunately, there's no writing associated with this. Right?
And we cannot ask her.
Right, well, yeah.
So that's just hypothesis.
I mean, I can ask you, which is the closest I can get, so.
Well, in fact, we know that when she died, she was about my size,
Okay.
about my age,
Oh, okay.
and she had dark hair. Thanks to DNA analysis, this is things that we can say. So,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, actually, it hadn't occurred to me to wonder how old she was. So mid-20s, is that about right?
between 35 and 40.
Oh, really? Okay. So, and she, you mentioning archery, didn't she have an arrow that was designed for penetrating
Perforing,
chainmail?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty remarkable. That's not just a hunting arrow, right?
Yeah.
Right? But I think a lot of the controversy that's revolved around this is so many people have looked at this grave and said, well, that's just a woman who's buried with a warrior's stuff. What is your reaction to that? It's obviously somewhat exasperated. but what is the response, right? What do you
Well, that's a good question. Uh, my reaction. I'm not surprised. When I talked about that with my teachers in France, they said that it's not a surprise because there's been women warriors in pretty much every cultures, in fact. So why would have been any exceptions in the Vikings? Why the Vikings wouldn't have had any women warrior? So maybe she was a warrior, but we cannot say that it was the majority, because
Hmm.
now on the TV we see a lot of women Viking that are warriors. No, we cannot talk about that.
Yeah, it's a
It's an exception. If she
right.
was a warrior, it was an exception. But it's not a surprise because why not?
The Old Norse literature certainly features women warriors. There's Hervarar Sagok, Heidrex, with Hervor. We have the Valkyries, who at least sometimes are depicted as fighting themselves, right? Sigrun in the Helgi poems, in the Poetic Edda, for example. So the idea in literature, as Veronica, we were talking about earlier, as we were saying, the idea comes from something, right? It's not a completely foreign, out of nowhere idea. Yeah. And about when is this grave from? Because we have many, I mean, centuries of habitation here. Do we know about what layer this is from?
It's the first half of the 10th century.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because we have found a coin. I don't remember the exact date of this coin. It's an Arabic silver coin, but we know that it's the first half of the 10th century.
Which is probably the peak of population in Birka, right?
Yes.
Roughly in that period. Right. And is she is she buried with anything else that distinguishes her from other graves? Because one thing that really struck me about it, reading about the reports of different graves, is not only is this a woman who is buried with so much martial equipment, but she's buried with so much, right, of stuff in general, right? You don't see other graves that are this full of just stuff. She seems
Yes.
extra wealthy, extra
Yes.
important, extra prominent.
What struck me about this grave is the two horses. We don't have a lot of graves with horses. We have a few, about between 20 and 30, I think. And this one has two horses. That's quite an exception here. Being buried with two horses, it's quite fancy.
Yeah. Am I right that 1,100 or so graves have been excavated here?
Yes,
So out of those, only 30, 40 horses. That isn't very many.
no,
And for two of them to be in one grave, yeah,
yeah,
that's remarkable. These horses are expensive. And probably this island I can't imagine this island could have been enough grazing for very many horses during that time when it was inhabited with a large town. So you're probably bringing the food in from somewhere else. You probably are bringing in hay to feed your horse too. Do we know, so one thing that I'm not as familiar with is the science behind isotopic analysis, things like that. Do we know where she spent most of her life? You said she had been in the East some. We know that from some of her clothing and such. Is there also any signature in her bones that shows where she spent her time?
well, that I don't know.
Okay. So we don't know if she was a long-time resident here or if she happened to die here or what.
We don't know where she died. We cannot know that, I think. she could have died here, but also somewhere else. I think we cannot know that, but maybe I'm saying something that is not right.
Okay, just checking. And as to the grave itself, could you tell me a little bit about that? Was she buried in a chamber?
Yeah, a very big chamber. It was 1 meter and 80 centimeters deep. So you could actually stand inside the grave without having to sit on something. And it was about 2 meters and 50 centimeters long, I think. And it was topped with a very big burial mound, which was topped by a big boulder. So it was really massive.
And Stolpa blew it up, right?
Yeah, he did.
The rock, which we're kind of surrounded by the pieces of it, aren't we?
Yeah, he did. He did that.
And it seems that some of these graves feature people sitting on objects. Was there a notion that she might have been sitting on a saddle?
Yeah, she was sitting probably on a saddle or on a small chair. In the museum, we have a saddle where she is at the place of the exhibition, but it could also be a small chair. It's possible. It's something that we have seen in other graves here.
That's interesting to me too. That not just lying down, but
And also sitting facing the town.
huh.
I like that part.
Yeah, that is interesting.
As if she was still watching over the city.
Right.
I mean, that's how I feel about that.
Right. That is very interesting.
But a lot of graves are turned to face the city that is right behind here.
That is interesting, right? Like, yeah, like there's still an interaction between the dead and the living.
Oh, yes.
That they still acknowledge the presence where the living are, right? And Veronica said that there was no, probably as far as we know, no inscription on the stone above the grave or anything like that. We don't.
No.
Yeah, so there's just nothing to tell us who this person
We
was.
can say a lot, and at the same time, we cannot say a lot. So it is extremely frustrating.
And you know, what can we not say that about with the Viking Age? We can say so much and yet so little. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And from beautiful Birka, wishing you all the best. Let me pause for a moment and remind you that a lot of videos that I have made and posted in recent months were made in Sweden, and in particular at the archaeological site of Birka. And it was because the people who run Birka and Grimfrost brought me to Sweden that I was able to make all those videos, including the one at the Sparlösa runestone and many at the Birka site itself. There are these little pins with the Birka writer that you can buy to support the archaeological site at Birka, and which will help them maybe eventually excavate the thousands of rich Viking Age burials that are still unexcavated on that island. It still boggles the mind. Supposedly those will be available to purchase on Linda Volander's website at some point before too long. And you can support my channel if you're interested in good free information about Old Norse that comes from a person with expertise in it and not from an AI that just Googles for you. You can help by going to grimfrost.com and buying some of their amazing replica Viking stuff and books, including my books.